Monty, first of all, good seeing you, man.
Good seeing you, Dave.
Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Great to be here.
We're about to announce A.Q. Shipley as the new radio analyst for the Arizona Cardinals. With your broadcasting background, did you think about double duty at all? Call the games, run the team?
Oh, man, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Excited to meet A.Q. Yeah, excited to have him aboard, and that'll be great. Look forward to a great season. But, yeah, you got a new partner in crime up there. So.
Yep, it'll be different for sure, just being with Wolf for the last 20 years. You're 24 for me. It's crazy to think about. I had a full head of hair. Poor Jim Omohundra, our producer, since he's been above me for 24 years, saw the full head of hair and then kind of the hole up top and then how it's just now.
Hey, that's how it goes. I
we
know
got to
the
embrace
feeling.
it. We got to embrace it, right?
This is much easier, much more streamlined, you know?
I got mistaken for you last year. I don't know if I got to tell you this.
Oh, my gosh.
Somebody
that's a compliment to me.
Somebody sent me a picture of the AP, and it said, Monti Ossenfort looks on as the Cardinals practice against Denver.
Look at you.
And it was my picture.
Handsome guy like you. That's awesome.
I'm trying to tell people all handsome bald guys don't look alike.
That's right.
I don't know if you know who Dan Schulman is. Dan does well, he did Sunday Night Baseball forever, does college basketball. My Twitter feed gets attacked all the time when he does a game because they think it's me, and sometimes they attack him.
Hey, if you have a good game, it's you. If you have you're off a little bit, maybe it's
Stan's fault.
Yeah,
exactly. It's a great.
Yeah, there you go.
Great.
Yeah.
So for you, this is year 3. I'm just curious, Monty. Year 1, you come in, you're evaluating everything, you're making changes, rebuilding, for lack of a better word. Year 2, you're tweaking. What about year 3 for a GM? What was the process like once the season ended to now in terms of what you're looking for and how you go about evaluating?
Yeah, Dave, I think really it's, you get your processes in place, you get the structure of the organization and the football and how everybody operates, how the pieces fit together. And, I think that's hard that first year. It's all new. It's new to everybody, people that you don't know. And so then each subsequent year, you're more familiar with the people that are in the building. People know what the expectations are. And, I think as you go into year 3, it's really more of the same, and you're trying to perfect what you're doing and things that you've done in the past. It's reevaluating what you've done and, hey, like, have we tried this, or hey, we had an issue here, should we tweak this a little bit? And I think that's it's constant. It's always evolving. And really just the nature of the NFL, there's every year the team is different. There's different players that come in and out of the organization. There's coaches, there's staff members that leave in and out. And so I think every year is a good year to not only evaluate what we're doing, but also reinforce the things that we believe in, because it's never a bad thing for people to hear the message again, and things that change. Sure, everybody's got to get on board with that, but evaluating and then reteaching and then reinforcing those things, I don't think that's ever a bad thing. And so as we get through subsequent years here, I think that's going to be a constant to how we want the football operations to run, and really in year 3 it's no different, and that's kind of how we approached it this offseason and into training camp this year.
When you made decisions this year as opposed to maybe year 1, how much did you rely on, okay, I've done this now in this role, because obviously you've been in personnel for 2 decades, but as a general manager, how much did you rely on, okay, this is me, this is Monti Ossenfort as a GM, as opposed to year 1 where maybe, and I'm not trying to speak for it, but maybe you're thinking of people that you worked for, or people that you worked with, or helped mentor you in terms of how they did things?
Yeah, I think the experience of going through those decision-making process, whether it's picking a player in the draft, or deciding who to sign in free agency, or ultimately when we pick the 53-man roster, I think once you've been through that, you develop a process and you see kind of what works. And listen, it's not just all me. There's a lot of people that put a lot of time into the decision-making process that we go through. And so I lean on a lot of people in our scouting department, a lot of people on our coaching staff led by JG. I lean on Michael. I lean on all kinds of people in our football operations. And so, now that we've been through that a couple times, we can we know how everybody else thinks a little bit, and that certainly helps. And then it's good to hear counterpoints. I think you never want to be thinking the same things, and people bring up different ideas. And hey, like, we could do this, but if we do this, that means something else might have to go by the wayside. And so the more that we can have those healthy discussions, we've been through 3 cycles now of player acquisition, draft, and free agency. And so I just think that familiarity with each other and the ability to have those conversations, it just makes things much more conducive to what we hope are the right decisions.
Whether it was free agency, draft, the relationships that you built before you got here, have you seen those as you've gone along in this role? Have you seen those come into play more, the relationships you built before and once you started here, in terms of being able to pick up the phone, have a conversation with somebody you know to get done what you want?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think that's true both in the building and outside the building as well. I think, listen, we're together a lot in this building. And so sometimes, starting with this training camp time of year now through the end of the season, unfortunately or fortunately, we see the people we work with more than our families a lot of the time. And so it's just like any relationship. The communication has to be good. The communication has to be efficient, and it's got to be truthful. And there's hard conversations to have. So the more that we've had those, JG and our staffs and football operations in general, I think that eases that communication. It streamlines it a little bit more. It allows people to challenge maybe some lines of thinking. And then as it pertains to outside the building, sure, absolutely, those have relationships, some closer than others, but that certainly helps when we're trying to, whether it's calling about getting information about a player who maybe was cut, or if it comes to trades or during the draft or trades during this time of year. I think that always helps, is being able to have honest conversations with people and people that you can trust.
I want to talk about the rookie class from a year ago. Marvin Harrison Jr., if you just took his numbers and didn't look at Brian Thomas or Malik Neighbors or anything else, you'd say productive rookie year. It's such a hard transition, especially as a receiver, where you go from in college, you're always open to you're never open in the NFL. It's the one thing I think that's the most noticeable about college to pro is just how good the defensive backs are. What is it you want to see from him here in year two? What are your expectations for him?
Yeah, I think we all have high expectations for Marv. I think Marv had a very productive rookie season, and that's a hard thing to do. Last year just happened to be a pretty historic season for a lot of rookie receivers, and Marv was a part of that. And, just seeing him, the way he's approached this offseason, those rookie players, not only just Marv, but any rookie player, they don't go through a traditional offseason program. They've been busy doing draft prep. They're getting ready for the combine, for all-star games. They're trying to recover from a college season, and then they get thrown right into an NFL offseason and then roll right into training camp of the season. And that's a hard thing to do. But to see these rookie players, including Marv, have this offseason to, first of all, take a rest from the long process that they've been doing. But then a guy like Marv, who really was, I don't know how much of a rest Marv really took. The guy was in the facility, developing his body, and just seeing him more comfortable here on the early start of training camp and seeing him this past spring and bringing it into this training camp, it's really been cool to see. Marv looks, not that he looked out of place last year, but he just looks more comfortable. He looks like, hey, he's been he's like a seasoned vet at this point. And so really looking forward to all of our rookies from last year taking that year two jump, and I think Marvin's one of those guys that's going to lead that list.
Darius Robinson had obviously other issues to deal with last year, with family health issues and then the injury. I know it's just a snapshot, but from what you saw in December and what you've seen in the offseason program and here in Glendale, what has you encouraged about year two for him?
Yeah, Darius has another guy who's had a tremendous offseason. And so, it was a tribute to Darius that he was able to get back out on the field last year at all. We thought that was important to, Darius missed a lot of developmental time. And, between the injury and some of the personal things that he dealt with, it was a tough year on Darius. And so, to get him out on the field last year, even though, he probably wasn't completely 100%, but to get him out there to just feel the NFL game, feel the speed, feel the offensive lineman pressing on him and just different things that the offensive line is going to try to do to him, I think that was really important. And so then Darius was able to get to the offseason, fully heal, and then completely focus on developing his body. And so Darius had a tremendous spring OTA session into minicamp, and he's off to a really good start here this first week of camp. And so, really think he's got a chance to take a step in his second year, and we'll see how that plays out here over the next month.
With the injuries at corner, you were going to rely on Max Melton anyway, obviously more so now. What did you see from him last year? What have you seen so far here in Glendale that makes you confident that he can make this jump here in year 2?
Yeah, real similar to Darius. Like Max's time on the field grew as the season went on, and you could see his comfort level increase as well. And so, to see him, Max is a talented guy. Max is physically, he's fast, he's twitched up, he's a violent player for a corner, which is something you don't see a whole lot, and he's productive on the ball. And so to see him have some success there late in the season, again, getting used to NFL receivers and the speed of the game, he brought that into the offseason, and he's off to a good start. He's going to have a lot of opportunities out there, and we expect big things from Max to man one of the corner positions.
With this rookie class, I'm just curious if there's anything really that stood out yet in terms of what you've seen on the field from this group.
Yeah, I mean, I think this group is, it's a typical rookie class in that they've come in, they've done everything that we've asked them to do. They've had a good spring. That's a big jump when those guys make that jump from college to the NFL, both, mentally, physically. Those are huge jumps, along with things that are a little, not always common. They got to find a new place to live. They got to learn the names of everybody in the building. And so that's a hard transition. But, this group is off to a good start. We're still waiting to see Walter on the practice field, but Walter's doing everything else that he can to get himself ready to play. But some of the other guys that have been out there, it's been good to see. Will Johnson's off to a good start. Jordan Birch is off to a good start. So that's fun to see. And, Keaton Crawford back in the secondary, I think he's going to be a factor for us on special teams. And we'll see what kind of role he can carve out for himself defensively. But it's a good group. It's a good group, and they're learning, and they're jumping in and not missing a beat with what we're trying to do.
Wanted to talk about some of the veterans, Monti. Kyler, from when you got here to where he is now, maturity-wise, leadership perspective, what do you see there with his growth?
Yeah, I mean, that was a tough situation that first year. Kyler had dealt with an injury it's a brutal one to come back from, even more so for a guy that relies a lot on his legs. And so to see him battle through that and then go into his second year and have more comfortability in the offense, I just see a guy that's just he's comfortable around his teammates. He's comfortable in what his role is on the team. He knows that we've seen him make big plays with his arm, make big plays with his legs, and really it's just seeing him continuing to establish that rapport with his teammates. And so they have one full season with them under this belt. We expect that to grow with a lot of the offensive playmakers, be it Marv, Mike Wilson, Greg Dortch, Zay Jones, Xavier Weaver, the tight end group, Trey, Higgy Bear, Tip. He's got Mr. Reliable, James Conner, Trey Benson back there. So just feeling him just settling into that role of being the ringleader of that offense, of something that he's shown that what he can do at a high level. I think that's going to continue to grow this year.
Was there a particular aspect of his skill set that impressed you that maybe you weren't sure about when you took the job watching him from afar, now that you've seen him every day?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a hidden thing that maybe doesn't go and maybe gets overshadowed a little bit by just his athletic ability, but his ability to feel the rush and escape and have multiple avenues of getting out of the pocket. Like, listen, this is the NFL. It's never going to be a clean pocket. There's a bunch of guys that are coming trying to make life real miserable for those opposing quarterbacks. And so to see him be able to maneuver and escape and keep plays alive, and not only just be completely a runner, but putting that threat when he escapes the pocket to not only run but then deliver the ball downfield, it puts a lot of stress on the defense.
You brought in Jacoby Brissett as the backup. He started over 50 games. He's been on teams that have gone to the postseason. What was the biggest reason you went out and decided to go with Jacoby as the backup?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually known Jacoby for a long time. We drafted him when I was in New England, and always been a fan of Jacoby, and not only what he does on the field, but really the person that he is off the field. And so, having that veteran presence back there to, somebody that Kyler can lean on to when he comes off the field, and then a guy that, if he has to go in the game, like, he's certainly not going to be surprised. He's played and won a lot of games. And Jacoby's still got a good skill set. He's a big guy. He can deliver the ball down the field. He can get out and move when he has to. And so, we were excited to add a guy who brings that veteran presence to that quarterback room.
How do you think he's helped Kyler? Because Kyler now has been around a number of players that have been behind him. Is there anything you've noticed there about that dynamic?
Yeah, I think that's I think whenever you're around anybody that brings a different approach to the game, I think that always causes you to consider, hey, am I doing things, exactly right? And so, I can't speak for Kyler, but I would anticipate that having somebody, a vet like Jacoby, who has started this many games in the league, just seeing how he approaches his job, and what works for one guy may not work for somebody else, but what it does do is it makes you think. And so, hey, I like that, or hey, I've never thought of things that way. And so, I don't know Kyler if this is true for him, but I would imagine that that's inevitable when you bring somebody with that experience level into a room and you're with them as much as those two are together.
We're in an era now where tight ends regularly are catching over 100 balls a year, multiple guys. But with that said, Trey McBride clearly is now one of the best tight ends in the NFL. You guys obviously feel that way. What do you think's the next step for him?
Yeah, I think Trey is still an ascending player. I mean, he, the tight end position, it's an interesting one because, if you have a true tight end, it's a player that puts stress on the defense in multiple ways. You can't just treat you can't treat Trey as a glorified wide receiver because of what he does for us in the run game. Now, we love what he does for us in the pass game, but that stresses a defense. And the other thing about the tight end position, it's harder because of just based on alignment for a defense to key in and really focus on a tight end. And so you have a chance to move guys around, and Trey is no different. We got him on the move a lot, and his ability, not only receiver as a blocker, but also his ability after the catch. I mean, it creates a lot of yards for us as an offense. And so, I think Trey's just scratching the surface of what he can do for us as a team. Like, he took a huge step last year, and really looking for more of the same with him this year.
Monty, just a few more on the defense. You've really focused on the defensive line since you took over, and you have created great depth there. Dalvin Tomlinson, a name that I think people know, but unless you're probably watching it as closely as you watch it, maybe don't realize how he can impact a game. Where do you see him helping the Cardinals win the most?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a good point, Dave. I mean, nose tackle is not always the most glamorous position. They're not always making the big splash plays, but I've been a huge fan of Dalvin's ever since he was coming out of Alabama, and he's been a productive player at every stop of his NFL career. And I mean, the first thing that sticks out about Dalvin is just the sheer size of him. I mean, it's hard for him to fit in a doorway. He's just so big and long and wide, and so he is a lot to deal with up front for offensive line. And so I think Mac Wilson, I think he lined up for his first team period, and he had some of the new D linemen up there lined up in front of him, and his comment to one of the coaches when he came off the field, he said, "Ooh, that looks good up front." And so, I think Dalvin's ability to eat up space, to take on block, to defeat blocks, to find the ball, it really opens up opportunities. Now, Dalvin's going to make his share of plays too. There's no question about that. But he does a lot of the dirty work that sometimes doesn't show up in the in the highlights and the box score. But I know those guys that are playing around him sure appreciate what he does for the defense.
Speaking of big, you signed Calais Campbell back here. I remember when he left, there were people that said, well, I don't know, if he's going to be 30. I don't know if he can keep doing it at this level. And then he got better. He went to Jacksonville and lit it up, and he's been great ever since. And he's 38 now. And I know you didn't just bring him here because, hey, it's a cool story. You don't do that. Mm-hmm. You're bringing in players to help you win.
Yep, absolutely. No, it's it really is amazing, the career that Calais has had, especially at that position. 18 years in the NFL at any position is unreal. 18 years in the NFL on defensive line is just absurd. And so, we saw firsthand what Calais is still doing. Last year when we went down to Miami, Calais was playing down there, and I mean, he was a problem. He was a problem for us to handle all day long. And I think I had heard so many things about Calais. I wasn't here with him, obviously, the first time around, and I heard so many great things about the person. We can watch the tape, and the tape is what it is. Calais is still playing at a very good level, but you hear so many things about the person, and then, you're like, all right, calm down. Like, it can't be that good. And then to get him here and actually see the guy and see what he brings, just the way he approaches the game, the way he approaches, I mean, he's sitting in the lunchroom, holding court with teammates. And you could just see, the way they look at him, the way they respect him, and the way he works. I mean, to be able to keep his body in a position to go out there and do this in year 18, it's pretty impressive. So we're excited to have him. We're excited to have him not only on the field, but we're excited to the leadership that he can provide us in the locker room and for some of our young defensive linemen. And I'm just fortunate that I can call him a teammate now at this stage in his career.
What about Josh Sweat? When you decided, hey, this is the player we really want to go after in free agency, what did you envision for him in terms of a role for 2025?
Absolutely. Sweaty's been a productive player for a long time. He's been a good player for a team that's won a lot of games in Philly and, finishing off with that Super Bowl win. But, he's also a player he's a two-down player. Or, I'm sorry, he's a two-phase player. Mm-hmm. Sweaty is, I think one thing that's a little underestimated, how big he is. He is a big dude, and he's long. And the way he sets the edge in the run game, it's really impressive. And then, his ability to affect the passer. Sweaty knows how to rush, and he's got a varied arsenal that he can threaten tackles with. He's got quickness, he can bend, and then he's got speed to power. That is really his hallmark, and he uses his length really well. And so, we got a player that we think can help us on all three downs, and we're excited to get him out. He comes from a winning program, and he has some familiarity with our coaching staff. And so when we had the opportunity to add him, we were excited to do so.
Last one, I'm just curious on the evolution of JG. When you evaluate him and his growth, it's clear that you two guys work very well together. That's not always the case. I'm sure you've been on teams where the head coach and the GM didn't see eye to eye. I've seen it, whether in the NFL or other sports, where it's not a relationship that's built on trust, where one guy may be trying to do something and the other guy disagrees, but it's behind closed doors. You don't really hear about it. Clearly, you two are in the same direction, not saying you agree on everything, but how has that relationship grown, the two of you, and what are you seeing from Coach that's maybe different from when he got here as a rookie?
Yeah, I think JG has done a phenomenal job for us. He does a great job of leading the staff, leading the players, having the team prepared every week. And, our relationship it continues to grow all the time. We communicate multiple times a day. He's popping in my office, I'm going to his office, and it's easy. And I think it's an easy conversation. It's never one, and even when it's bad news, it's, well, this is what it is. Now, how do we adjust to it? And unfortunately, it's not always good news in the NFL. There's problems that we have to deal with and we have to work through. And he's a great guy that handles. He's an even keel. And when situation comes his way, we're honest with each other and we lay out the scenarios and we go from there. And I think one thing with JG being a first-time head coach 2 years ago, has got a couple years under his belt now. Just the way he sees the big picture of not only roster building but game management. He's got a level head. He really has done a great job for us, and looking for more of the same. And my relationship with him has been outstanding, and it's going to continue to be that way because this is a big job, and there's a lot of people that have to contribute to the success of an NFL franchise. And so for Michael to give us the trust to go out and do JG's respective job, for him to do that and me to do my job, that's an important thing, to have that open line of communication, and we certainly have that, and hopefully that leads to more success on the field come this season.
Well, as quickly as you guys, and I know you're never satisfied, and obviously there's another step for the organization, but as quickly as you've been able to flip things from when you got here to now, that speaks to your professionalism and Coach Gannon's professionalism and the stability that you've been able to bring here. So it's exciting to see where the team is. I know Cardinal fans are looking forward to seeing what 2025 holds.
Yeah, we are, Dave. We're excited too. We took a step last year, but that's not where we want to go. That's not where we want this thing to go, and we want to take another step this year. And so there's only one way to do that, and that's start over from scratch and try to build. Everybody's got to reestablish their roles, their performance level, and that includes players, coaches, staff, myself, and that's what training camp's all about. And so we're looking forward to the season. We got a big test on the road in New Orleans coming up week 1, and we got 5 weeks here to get ourselves ready for that. But we're excited for the season, excited for get back out here to State Farm, have the place rocking like it was last year. The fans were amazing last year, and we're looking to give them more reason to cheer, and we're excited to do it in 25.
Appreciate you coming by, Monty. Thanks, man.
Dave. Appreciate it.